Making sure.
I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players. It is the first CRM player of February 2026, which means we're in the year 18 now because we are officially crossed over if we're going on the date that you posted.
No, 17.
Players.
17
years.
17. This is the 17th year officially.
17 years.
That's almost ridiculous.
What about unofficially with that?
Unofficially, we're at 45 years. But, you know,
I'm bringing back, since I think last week we kind of touched on it, but I think now we are officially in the year 18 because you posted this.
Yeah.
January 26th to 2009. So we are officially, unofficially, whatever you want to say.
Well, it's official.
We're officially in the year 18. And we're also officially into the moment is Finn.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, what the hell? Simon Sinek.
Mention Copenhagen.
Come on, can you give some quotes to some important people? You know, like Eric Dickerson or somebody like that.
That's right. That's right. Roman Gabriel.
I have to tell you guys. I think you already know. I'm not into the what do you call it? Motivational speaker?
Nah, I'm not either.
Not into this.
I will say Simon Sinek is smarter than most of them, but
he's cynical.
You know what? He ought to use that somehow.
I would if I were him. Cynical.
Yeah.
It kind of goes against his brand, but
yeah, but you know what? He could say, I'm changing the meaning.
Well, we better get back to the actual meaning of what Spin is doing here. You have a guess?
A half guess. Again, Dutch.
Open.
I'm going with somewhere in the Dutch universe, but the problem is it's not really strictly that. Flemish. I'm going to just say Flemish.
You need a tissue?
Yeah.
Last time I did a quote from another important person, Paul. Okay.
Thank you for that.
And you didn't get it, did you? It was one of them languages you didn't get.
Well, yeah, no, he was Mongolian again. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
Second time.
I bet it's not Mongolian.
My second guess too.
I bet this one isn't Mongolian.
No, I'm going to get Flemish. That's my call on this one.
All right, Spin.
It's a hard one. Again, I think I'm losing my facility for these languages now. I'm getting duller.
Oh, you can never be dull.
Oh, I can be. I can be. In fact, I aspire to be dull.
Wow. Well, we all have our aspirations. All right, Sven, let us know if the venerable Paul Greenberg is right with his phlegm-ish answer.
It's a pretty out there guess. I don't think I'm actually right on this one, but I think I may be within the language. Yeah, Dutch. That's pretty much the same thing.
People don't buy what you do. They
remember that's what I thought. Dutch at first. I said Dutch at first, and the Flemish is basically Dutch.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're still a little wrong.
Dutch to me. No, actually, I don't think I am.
If it's not.
Hold on, I'm going to double check on this.
I don't think Flemish is their national language, is it? He says you are very close, though. He gives you
it's a dialect of Dutch, and I think that's it.
No, all right, Sven. Well, you'll be the judge. Did he get it right?
I think it's a dialect of Dutch.
We'll leave it up.
Remember, I said it wasn't quite normal.
We'll leave it up to Sven. Sven, did the venerable Paul Greenberg get it right with his Flemish answer?
I am going to figure this out. He's got me.
We're leaving it up to the man himself to determine if the venerable Paul Greenberg was actually correct.
I'm leaving it up to the AI itself.
You don't trust Sven?
No, I do, but he might not see it, might not know that one way or the other because it could just be used.
He has to know it because he can't be choosing languages he don't know. That's not
Well,
right.
no, I mean, I'm saying that the actual thing might be Flemish, but it'd be characterized as Dutch when he saw it.
I remember Peter Fleming. I don't know what he has to do with that, but
I don't either, but
all right, Finn. Was he right or was he right? We're not gonna move on until you let us know.
we can't move on.
Like mostly, he is right. Okay.
I knew I am. I think I am right.
Well, Finn says you're right, so you know
Yeah.
it's his moment.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask Gemini too.
Now we're gonna have to create a whole new segment.
Yes, Gemini. Stump Gemini. I'd rather you did that.
Well, anyway, while you're doing that, next week, as part of a little bit of housekeeping, yeah, right. Next week, part 2, or is it part 2? I don't know. Of
Call it Redux.
reflux, redux, you know, a couple of ducks. Anyway, we are bringing back the 4 horsemen, although I guess it's technically 5 of us. We're not all math majors, so we're okay with that. We are bringing them back because we had a rather hot conversation. What was that, last couple weeks ago?
That was actually 3 weeks ago. Already.
3 weeks ago. When we were talking about, is AI moving us closer to a CRM apocalypse? I don't know if you look at the stock market, I think the answer might be yes. But we had a fiery conversation, and we said we need to finish this conversation or finish each other off one and for all or something like that. So Esteban Kolsky, who is there smiling, that's yeah, I don't know how we got that picture, but he looks good with a smile on his face.
He does. He should keep it.
Looks happy. You know, Esteban Kolsky, Ginger Conlon, Dennis Pombrand, you and me.
We are the horsemen.
Next Thursday at 3 Eastern, we are picking that conversation up. And you know what? I was just looking at something. It's kind of hard to believe. I was looking at HubSpot's current stock price. And this is not a Stump the Godfather question, but a year ago, from this particular day to a year ago, you know what percentage drop in the HubSpot stock price? Or did I already tell you this?
I was about to say I do because you literally
I
told
think
me.
I told. I'm stopping it. I'm stopping
it in Facebook for me to see.
I'm doing a little too much. Yes,
I won't say. I let other people guess, but I won't say.
Well, no, I got another Stump the Godfather, but
yeah, but there isn't any Stump the Godfather until we do the transition.
Well, there is one. We just don't have it branded. And we won't make the full announcement until we're ready to do that. But HubSpot's stock price is 70% lower today than a year ago on this day. 70%.
That is awful.
I think that's about the worst one. Now there are other. I think Salesforce is down about 50%, and a few others are down there. I think ServiceNow is around 45%. These are huge names, huge in our neck of the woods, at least. And HubSpot 70% down. That is just.
Well, luckily, personally, I have nothing invested in HubSpot, so.
I mean, I don't either.
Sorry for people who have, but
yeah.
And the implications are kind of ugly, but I'm not going to worry about it.
Well, I think what's going on is, and I wish I had put this up, cut and paste on this, but remember last week we were talking about the Meta earnings, and they were up significantly because they announced as part of their earnings that they actually are seeing actual ROI on their AI investments, mostly through their ad business stuff. But it seems to me, like the companies in our kind of neck of the woods, the Salesforces, the HubSpots, the Adobe's. Those enterprise SaaS companies are all, or for the most part, not all, they have a subscription model and it's seat based, and it seems like that's what's freaking people out. The people are thinking that all this AI and I guess Anthropic leading the way with the stuff that they're doing with their, with Claude Code and
Claude
Co-work and
Cowork.
all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and then with that Claude bot thing, it's like if you have a subscription based seat model, people are thinking, is this going to be the end of that model with this AI stuff? Because AI can, you can say a few words and you can build an application now. And, why would you want to pay a seat price when you can just say a few words and get an application or something like that? So it seems like that's why these companies are getting hit so hard compared to some of these other ones.
How would that impact a usage pay for usage kind of model?
Well, I think looking at what happened with Meta, they're using their AI investments to, I think, optimize their ad offering, which is not seat based, it is usage based. And because they are able to connect their usage business model, which is their ad business, to AI improving the top and bottom line numbers through that's kind of proven. They've proven something that hasn't really been proven before, which is, wow, there's an AI a company that is using AI and it's actually having a positive impact on their business, their current business model. And I think because it's not something that you have to pay, every person has to pay a seat to use. It's being able to move away or avoid some of the stuff that's going on with all these enterprise software models, which are mostly, seat-based subscription models. So it looks like what the AI, I think what these folks are kind of thinking is AI is disrupting the business model more than the technology itself.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But then it's interesting. You go back a year or so ago, maybe, when you had guys like Bob Stutz and others advocating.
The use,
for you, basically for usage
consumptions, right?
Consumption pricing, but consumption based pricing, but which is usage. So, but then it also comes interesting to me. What happens to, say, Zuora or companies like that?
Didn't they get bought by a PE firm or somebody bought
Yeah,
them?
they did, but I think they still exist as a company, So what happens to the companies that are based on, providing services for subscription-based payments, things like that? Either they'd have to retool. I mean, they could. I imagine they could. They've got the technology, I would guess, with their platform. And guys like Teen, I always trust to figure it out. So they could, but I'm wondering if they are. Meaning, are they actually saying, okay, well, we're kind of coming to the end of this cycle? Because one way or the other, regardless of whether, given what we're seeing, but also, and there's still obviously a ton of companies using subscription-based pricing or paying for it. But we're still obviously on the tail end of that model being a successful one. A lot of people equate it to just SaaS. I don't think it's just SaaS. SaaS that's not really well, because to me, SaaS is more than the pricing model. It's also how you access your technology, right? A cloud-based accessing of technology. And yes, subscriptions are part of it, but they're not the only part of it. So I would call it the end of subscription. And again, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying I think it's coming to, though,
a transition.
Yeah, basically the end of that cycle where it was the thing you did, and now it might be moving toward that consumption-based pricing. I mean, because if you look at Claude, I know this. I pay $200 a year, and I get I don't know, it's per session, I think. I think that they reset sessions 2 or 3 times a day. I get 193,000 tokens. So that's 100% consumption based, right? I'm buying usage, right?
Mhm.
I'm buying in advance. I'm not paying according to my actual usage. I could, meaning if I wanted to, I could either pay for a larger thing, or I can pay extra when I run out of tokens for a session. They bring up what happens. You see a screen saying, "You want to continue this now? You can buy this way. You can buy this way." I usually just wait till it resets, because it's like 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. But that's really it's both interesting and annoying at the same time. But would you say it would be more wiser for them to say to me, let's say, just any or a company, hi, we will charge you according to what you've actually used, like an electricity
Yeah, a
charge.
utility basically.
Yeah, utility. Basically, treat it as
Mhm.
utility, or treat it as prepay consumption.
Well, you know what's going? It seems like uh, something that I remember talking about sometime last year. I guess when the Apple, the new M4 Mac Minis were coming out, and then when the M4 Mac MacBook Pros, and I guess the Mac, just the Mac. What do they call that thing? It's not the Mac Mini. It's just the
The,
Mac.
which Mac Studio.
Yeah, that's it. The Mac
Mac
Studio.
Studio.
It was coming out, and it had I think it had the M4 Pro, because I don't think there's the M4 Max yet. So it's M4 Pro, and the top of the line one had like you could get it with 512 gigabytes of RAM, and of course it was the kind of RAM that it could, you could build it to be used in one spot. What do they call it? I can't remember, the throughput or something like that. But it got enough, not only enough RAM, but enough like
Yeah,
bandwidth, whatever they call that
yeah.
thing.
So
To,
like it would be
to
DDR5 6000 as opposed to DDR5
yeah, but
3200.
so you are seeing people actually buy these beefed up Mac Studios with all that RAM and be able to download the LLMs and run them locally.
Jesus.
And I looked at this because I was looking at this like, that's kind of interesting. But the minimum for, if you wanted to like be able to run like some of the bigger LLMs locally, you really had to get the 512 gig of RAM, which would run that Mac Studio to about $10,000.
Yep.
And you could go bigger than that, and you can also buy multiples and like put them together and have your own little Mac Studio farm. You can run everything. So back then I was like, I don't know if I want to do all of that, but apparently, how Apple's stock price has kind of come back, and they're
Yep.
doing pretty. It's not just the iPhones. People are actually starting to buy these things and run their LLMs locally.
Well, you know what? Not stupid. It's like, here's another interesting thing that goes to NVIDIA. Very similar concept is behind it.
What was that little thing they put out? What was that NVIDIA local?
Oh, I can't remember the name of that, but that actually is one thing too. So I was watching this video yesterday, Linus Tech Tips, who I kind of
I like Linus.
Yeah, I kind of like him. Sometimes a little bit much, but typically he's really good. And so apparently, the standard high-end GPU for consumer side GPU for that NVIDIA puts out currently is the 5090, the RTX 5090.
Mhm.
Well, apparently there is an RTX 6000 that they don't talk about much, but it still can be used by consumers, and but it costs $10,000.
Just
right?
the card?
Just the card. And it's basically a consumer side, and it goes to the heart of what you're saying. It allows you to do all the things you would want to do with running
Everything
large language models locally,
Yeah.
right? But it apparently this $10,000 card is like a mini Blackwell, right? So, and it still fits in a standard PC.
Wow.
But that's what I'm saying. Nvidia, I think, has already figured that part to what you're talking about with why someone would buy 512 gigs of RAM. It's why they would also buy the RTX 6000, not for crypto mining, but actually to invest in high end usage in a local way of AI. And that's another interesting question, which is not one we often talk about, but which is running things locally versus the cloud, right? Too, like I know I'm learning that more from the home automation side because the platform I use is for local control, but it also has a cloud component for remote. You know, if you want, you pay $65 a year and you can remotely control the whole thing from the cloud. But these are designed for local control, right?
Mm.
And if you're starting to think of AI and local control, and that's what this is doing, because another thing I just noticed on this platform is all of a sudden there's all these videos showing up about integrating this platform with MCPs, and the one that keeps, and there's literally an integration designed that somebody built that you can integrate Claude Code or Claude AI or Claude Cowork. I mean, you literally choose between them and integrate them fully into this home automation platform.
Yeah.
So it becomes literally locally controlled, 100% AI use at the level that you were talking with the LLMs,
Yep.
right? But that becomes it's probably a subject for a show at some point because it's really local versus cloud control is really an interesting question now, especially now.
Well, it's all. I was kind of going back and forth with our buddy John Cold Rice Lawson about this. It's almost like it feels like a back to the '90s moment because remember, and I'm thinking of like small businesses. Remember, they had to back before all this cloud stuff. They had to buy software, install it, put it on computers, put together, LANs, and they would typically try to find a tech guy that would be able to manage all that for them. Or if they were big enough, they would bring them on as a full-time employee. Their main job was to maintain software, upload it, make sure the PCs are working, to make sure the LAN was working, and you would have all that was localized. And then when the cloud took off, and they didn't need to do that because they never really wanted to do that, but they had to do that. But then when the cloud took off, that all went away. Well, now you're seeing this opportunity for people who don't want to have to always buy stuff and have it, pay a subscription to actually buy these kind of beefed up Mac Studios, put that thing on with all that 512 gig RAM, download these models and run them, and then you don't have to pay the tokens because you're running everything locally. And you're seeing the beginnings of that kind of thing taking place, which is like we're going back to the 90s because it might actually be less expensive at some point to do that.
Well, that's the thing. I think one of the unexpected causes of that is basically, let's say this. I know when cloud first came around and everybody was looking at subscriptions, it seemed like it was more manageable to do it because the pricing was sort of reasonable relative to buying a license that was on premise, right? On premises, right? License. And it just seemed, but the upfront costs were also less, because you were running it through the cloud. So you weren't installing any huge hardware and other things. Well, unfortunately, the cloud providers jacked the prices so high that all of a sudden it became cheaper to spend the upfront money, set everything up, and start thinking locally again, because once it's local, the cost to you is minimal, right? But back then, you still had to pay for the license. Now that really is, I mean, you might still have some costs to do there, but not really for the most part. You're just not paying for the license anymore. You're saving yourself a ton of money because of the unreasonable level of subscription.
It's gonna be really interesting to see how many folks attempt to go that route. I mean, because there's a lot of complexity. I mean, there was complexity with the PC LAN, uh, installing software. You know, when back in the '90s, you're gonna have to deal with all the AI models and trying to keep up with all that stuff, and you're gonna need somebody who's gonna have to have a lot of knowledge if you're gonna try to do it locally, do everything locally. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but it's interesting that there's that option now.
I think you just made a really key point, the knowledge part. So, for example, again, I'm looking at it from the lens of home automation because I'm finding this out, and I think as we discussed briefly this morning, this is a gigantic industry. It is not a small industry. This is $147 billion industry with smart devices and the like, and we all use them. Everyone does, but the people who are not that technologically proficient tend to use cloud-based ones, right? Like an iPhone or something like that, right? Because they're simple and you know a lot of it's done for you. The local control, to your point, you really do have to be technically proficient, and even if you're a business or an individual, you have to have some knowledge of what it's going to take to run it locally. And I know, as I'm doing a lot of local control in this house now, how not simple it is. So, right, the question is, I'll say the break point will be when there is something simple that can be done, right, to allow it, right, to happen. Because again, it's always, you know, as the mantra we've lived with our whole careers, which is, you know, make it easy on the customer and they'll come to you, right? But if it's not that easy, they're not gonna. And sometimes you do things, you'll spend a little more money just so you don't have to do something, not because you really could save, because you wouldn't save, because you would, but you just don't want to do it, right? And I would say that's the bulk of, on the B2C side, at least, that's the bulk of it. Right. It's like, save me the trouble is really the slogan that every business should have. Save me the trouble, man, and you got me for life.
All right. So before we bring our guest on, I want you to do a little promo for something that's coming up. That's
okay. We're getting excited about this now. We were like heads down today on the.
My head was like this. I wasn't really
right. Well, I was heads down because my head's very heavy. It's like 40% of my body weight's in my head. So anyway, the conference is shaping up. Okay, you know, attendance is starting to grow more and more. IRL 2026 right now is beginning to actually be kind of what we wanted IRL 2025 to be technically, which didn't quite work out, but the conference itself worked great. It was fantastic. But the actual technical side, the virtual experience this year is going to be really interesting. So if you can't actually physically make the conference, we highly recommend you'll go to a registration site, which we will post soon, that will allow you to register with Kaltura, who is going to be basically a platform is going to run the event and the streaming and the whole thing. In addition, we're lining up, the speakers are lining up. One of our newest speakers is Katrina Gazarian, who's basically going to speak on employee engagement. But if you ever have seen Katrina in action, she's not only really deeply knowledgeable around the world of employee engagement and human resources, but she's also really, really, let's say, energetic and funny, right? But her level, one of the things that made me just love her was when I first met her, I started looking at her work, and the depth of the playbooks she had on how to do this stuff was astounding. So you're going to get some of that at the conference, because she's our newest speaker. Jeff Gomez, who is, you know, I mean, he's like a legend in Hollywood, really, I guess is the right term. He's the Disney guy. He's the, you know, MGM guy. He's the guy that the world of movies and animation call on when they need narratives and stories. They talk to Jeff. Of course, Michael Wu, our AI god, and, you know, what is it called? Lifting the lid, right?
Taking the lid off.
Taking the lid off, whatever it's called. Taking the lid off with Michael Wu. He's a monthly discussion of AI, and you probably watched. You're always intriguing. Well, he's saying in the world of AI, what can we learn from the lunatics? Which is going to be really interesting. And in the meantime, the analysts are ready for the 2 analysts in a chair, great debates. And the chairs will be ready too. But if you're at the conference, that's up to you to populate those chairs.
The chairs are going to be ready too.
The chairs will be ready for you.
Glad to hear that one.
For you to put your rump on one, right? To join those 2 analysts in each of the 2 great debates. It's just a lot, really, and of course,
you're leaving out Brohammer and the Cowboy are going to do.
I was getting there. I'm going up I'm going from the end up.
Oh, okay, the end up.
I'm literally starting at the end, right? So, and then of course, to Brent's absolute point, we've got the world famous, the indubitable.
Wow.
The irascible, which we're going to also add to him. Well, Esteban, but they're still irascible though. The irascible Brohammer and the Cowboy, aka John Reed and Brian Summer, who are 2 of the leading enterprise tech analysts in the world, who will let's just say give their take. And if you've ever seen their take, you're going to want to listen to this one. Give their take, and we got some good sponsors here, man. We're giving the sponsors some leeway to decide what they want to present in their 15 minutes on stage. So, but we've got Creatio and Kaltura and Zoho and Salesforce, and we got 2 others. And Pega.
Just got the word on Pega. Literally.
Oh, okay.
Check your email.
Okay. And Pega, and one other one seems like working on 60-40 on it now. I won't say.
We're up there. The odds are getting better, by the way. Sounds like
they were 50-50. I'm just going on the enthusiasm of the person working on it, right? So
she's great,
getting better and better, and they'll be there regardless. This other sponsor will have people there. It's going to be really fun. And don't forget one thing about this conference: it's a community, right? It's a community. It's not just a conference. This is the gathering. The annual gathering, and I think I can say this safely. I'm not trying to, compete with anybody here. This is the annual gathering of the CRM, CX, customer engagement, customer facing, really, business tech community, right? And it's there's a lot of people who know a lot of people here, and they've known each other for years. And this year we have an influx of a significant number of new people too, who are going to be given a chance. And one last thing before we move on to our guest. We are, as we always do, we are going to
bring the ads. We're bringing the ads.
In the community room, we're going to run a series of our shows. Well, if we get the interest, and the word is out on LinkedIn today, if we get the interest, we are looking for 3 people who have always wanted to do a video broadcast, a live stream, or they could want to have done it pre-recorded. This is live stream, and we're going to give them 3 of them. And don't forget your audience here, customer facing. We're going to give them 3 of them 10 minutes apiece to do a little pilot of a show they would like to do, and then we're going to have it in front of a live studio audience. That live studio audience will then vote, and one will be picked as the winner. Now, what the winner gets, we don't know yet. We'll figure something out. But what everyone will get, all 3, will get a copy of their actual broadcast, professionally produced, that they can use in any way they like. But this is a shot. You want to take a shot at producing a broadcast? This is it. And you can see whether you can do what Brent and I do, which you can't. I can promise you that. But you can do your own thing. And if you try to do what Brent and I do, we're gonna be angry. Right? You can't call your show.
Yeah, because they'll probably do it better.
Yeah, CRM players. It'll be CRM PLAYERS. Right. So, but keep in mind, there's 2 criteria. Criteria 1 is customer facing audience, make it interesting to them. And criteria 2, you have to physically be at the event. If you're interested, go to LinkedIn, look under my name. You'll see my latest post says Put your info in the comment, not your info. Put your name that you're interested in the comment. I will contact you via LinkedIn, and then we'll talk about what it is. Okay, so that is it. It's really exciting. It's very different than any other conference out there. The only one that's even comparable, I think, is Constellation CCE, and it looks like Vala
Yeah,
Asher
I was gonna
is
do
the
that.
chief evangelist of Salesforce, and Ray Wang, who actually do a show called Disrupt TV, will do a hybrid in-person digital edition episode of Disrupt TV at the event. Weirdly enough, even though it's digital, it'll still be on the main stage.
I was gonna call it an intercontinental version of Disrupt TV.
Fair enough.
There it is. All right.
And
All right. We
that's
got
what
it
we
in.
got.
We got it up. All right. Now, let me bring you back here. Now, to introduce our guest today, the venerable Paul Greenberg. This is a new guest. I can't wait to see how this one goes because this is a new guest, never been on the show before. So, it's going to be a special introduction.
Okay. Many years ago, when we were doing CRM Idol, all the way back then, one of our sponsors, one of the people who was offering a prize was Sequoia Capital. And they had just invested in this company called Lattice Engines. And I was talking to the guy, can't think of his name now, it was Jeff something. I was talking to the guy about it, and he said, well, there's this company called Lattice Engines, and I know you're going to be out on the West Coast. Would you be willing to talk to him? I said, sure. So he said, okay, I'm going to introduce you to him. He's the founder and CEO, Shashi Upadhyay, and we'll set it up. So I went out there, sat down with this guy, with Shashi, and wow. First, I was blown away by Lattice Engines, but honestly, even more so, but the kind of human being this guy is. Lattice Engines itself was a pioneering, visionary venture, right? And eventually got acquired. I don't remember who acquired them. He can enlighten us on that one. But Shashi he was just like, wow, at every level. Not only was you recognize his capabilities as an executive and founding executive, which is even harder immediately, because he knew, like, one of the things I remember he knew, and because I always kind of see if they're going to be was he going to be a victim of founder syndrome, which means keep your hands on everything all the time and don't trust anybody but yourself? Or was he going to be one of these people who's willing to delegate? In 20 seconds, I knew he was one of these people willing to delegate, right? He was willing to actually trust the people he hired, right? So that was first. Now, we have kept up, not constantly, but throughout the years, we've kept up. And then about, it's a little over a year ago, I saw he'd gone over to Zendesk as president of products, engineering, and AI. And I thought, wow, finally, look, honestly, I had a very spotty relationship with Zendesk. It was not great. Let's just put it that way. But when he was there, when he was put into that position, all of a sudden, I liked Zendesk all that much more because he was there. That's how much I really think of this guy. And so he's been there a little over a year now. He's made a difference already. And there is one other subject, which I'm not going to talk about right now, but we will talk about sometime toward the end of the show, that I'm going to bring up with him that's personal, because I'm interested in his current philosophy on this. And all I will say is, as I'm introducing him, the conversation started at Glory Days, and he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So with that, let's bring on Shashi. There he is.
Hi guys. Hello.
Oh.
Hi Brent. Hi Paul.
Hey, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Really excited to be here. So thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Thanks for taking the time.
No brainer.
And I know I was supposed to be here like a few weeks ago, and we had a bunch of technical glitches. So apologies to the audience in case you were you're a victim of that. But happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so how'd you get to Zendesk? Why don't you just run that through? Just how did
Our-
you even get there?
Zendesk, yeah. So I mean, short story is, Paul, I recall that meeting, and I also I remember meeting you several times more, including at your home,
Mhm.
and really value both all the doors you opened for me. I mean, I was like a no one in the CRM industry at the time, and you were pretty amazing. I was at Lattice through 2019. We had over a short period of time, we had a couple of acquisition offers. The last one was from Dun& Bradstreet,
That's what it was.
which is a large data company, and they were looking for a software platform. And we were actually the biggest data partner at the time, software data partner. So acquisition made sense. I joined them, stayed there through COVID and they go public. And then I left to work at Google. I wanted to see scale. Like I think one of the points you made earlier, Paul, which is startups are great fun. I really enjoyed building a company, but sometimes impact goes through larger organizations. It's easier to touch more users, more customers, add more value. And so when I had an opportunity to join Google, the ad tech part of Google, and run a product for all the enterprise-facing apps there, like Google Analytics, Google Ads, SA360, and so on, I took that opportunity. I was there for about 4 years, and I left in 2024 to change altitude again. So I kind of think of, like startups are like you're very close to the ground, and at Google you're like flying too high, and I wanted to be somewhere a little bit closer to action. And my original plan was actually to work with an investor to buy a company that was already sort of at scale, like not very large, but $50 to $100 million type company, and then grow it. Right, that was the goal. And as I was doing that, someone said, "Hey, like I know you're trying to take a company private, but they already exist this company called Zendesk, and they're looking for someone to run product engineering and AI." And my first response was no, and partly for some of the reasons Paul mentioned. I think the reputation, definitely in the late 20s, the reputation had taken a bit of a hit. But when I met the team and I met my current CEO, Tom, and the rest of the team, I felt like this is a group of people that I really liked. And for me, that's always been like a North Star, right? I mean, technology is technology, but people you spend time with is what defines everything. So I've been there for about 14 months. And what's exciting, that was the people side, but the real thing that I kind of saw coming was AI agents were going to be a big thing. And all software as a service companies, every CRM company has to transform around that, going from software to agents. And Zendesk was in very at the start of that journey, definitely not in the middle of the journey. So I thought that's a place I could add value. So that's why I joined. Yeah.
So being at a company like Zendesk, and we've just been talking a lot about all the upheaval that seems to be going on around what AI is doing, and I think a lot of the upheaval is mostly on the financial side. Like we were just talking about HubSpot being down 70% year over year in terms of their stock price. And you can just take a list of the enterprise SaaS companies and see 30%, 40%, 50%, 70%. What do you think is going on currently? Because you're kind of among these companies too. What's your take on the current situation, and how does a company like Zendesk kind of navigate everything that's going on with this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there are 3 factors at play. So number one is it's kind of ironic. Zendesk went private sometime in October of 22. And ChatGPT came out literally a few weeks later, right? So
good timing there.
I don't know, but I suspect that the go private plan had not anticipated that. so it was a shock. It was a shock to the system, of course. I mean, shock to the entire, especially support is very amenable, right? Because it's text based for the most part. And a lot of the problems around like multi-turn conversation, understanding the intent of the user, right? Like a lot of these things are ideal for support. And so that was the first shock to the system. And the answer became pretty clear very quickly, which is a lot of stuff, in our estimate, by the way, I mean, at Zendesk, one of the things we did is we looked at almost 1 billion tickets over time and analyzed it and
Jeez.
came to the conclusion that 65-70% of tickets are very low value add, right? Like this is something a customer could have done if they had found the right link, the right article, the right whatever. And maybe 25 to 30% actually value add. It helps you improve the relationship with the customer, leads to like better engagement, better alignment, etc. So that first 65% is all going to AI driven systems, right? And that's sort of been the general direction of the company. Now, sometime in November of last year, right, a second thing emerged, and I think it's actually an even bigger shock to the system than the first one, and that is this task. I mean, so Cloud Code is the one that led it, but it's sort of coming everywhere, which is the long running coding agents, right? So agents that can literally run for hours and hours. And just build up like an entire website for you. And tons of like, any application you can think of. Like I was showing this to a family member yesterday, which is, we have family in 7 different cities across the world. So we just built like within 30 minutes an app that shows you the weather in those 7 cities, right? In an interactive map. And the thing that did it, like asking for a few permissions, but Cloud Core work. So now that kind of a web app, as an example, has become so easy to build, the market's become very skeptical about like who is just relying on that, who has just been a wrapper around a database, right? And if you're a wrapper around a database, yeah, you are. It's going to be tough, right? That's different from like, so you start from there and you say, okay, like what are areas where the chance of disintermediation is less. And software, like at the end of the day, software is software. Anybody can learn to build it. It's all a matter of interest, but it's not a hard thing. So the large companies have been defined by having proprietary data, having unique workflows, supporting edge cases, having great distribution, having great customer relationships. So some of these software things around brand and trust and the harder things around industry knowledge, those become much more important when the price of the cost of the software itself is kind of going down to zero. So I think that is the swirl we are in. My kind of take on the market is the reason like everyone's taking a hit is because it's very hard to tell from the outside who's going to come out of it and who's going to just collapse as a result of it. So it's like a basket wide hit at the moment. Yeah.
Well, so you offloaded, you basically, I don't know if you've completed doing this, but you mentioned 65% of the interactions with customers pretty much could be offloaded to AI in a manner of speaking. Have you done that already?
We have done that already. So we have a context of service, right? So service is when someone has a problem and they're reaching out to you, right? So not sales, not marketing, but in service. We have AI agents today. We have an AI agent today, which can take, it's like the first thing that a user would interact with. They can do it through any channel. They can do it by voice or email or text or WhatsApp or even ChatGPT, right? You can like invoke it from there. Once they go in, it just feels like a conversation. You can actually like talk to it, tell it your problem. You can get it to do simple things like, hey, just tell me what the refund policy is, all the way to we have customers who are using it to actually run the entire refund process itself, right? You provide it, you provided your information, you ask for the refund, you provide the tracking number, and it just takes it and does it all for you, right? So the big leap happened when agents became truly agentic, meaning they could take action, right? So that we're already in that world. We have like the highest automation rate that we have seen is closer to like 94%.
Wow.
And then in the more complex cases, we can still get as high as 40 to 45%. So it is a spread, but that word is already here. Now it's just a matter of like getting customers start to use it. And the cool thing is, Paul, the stuff works 24/7. It has access to all the knowledge in the building or in the company, right? So it's sort of not limited by some of the human constraints we have. And it's when you look at the CSAT coming out of these, it's often 5 to 10 points higher than what people were experiencing through the channels that existed. The other big thing we have learned is there was a lot in the service world, especially, there was a lot of unserviced customers, right? Meaning, because service always ends up being about cost, right? So you have all this stuff that you want to do for your customer, but you couldn't afford it. So classic example is if you have some like free software, for example, right? Most companies don't provide support for free software, right? Whereas now you can put an AI agent against it and it's very happy to provide your service, right, for that. Or we have a gaming customer that has put our support bot in the middle of the game itself. So you can always there's basically like a player that you can ask for help as you go, right? So there's all these use cases that are now become possible that couldn't be done before. Yeah.
So do you run into like, okay, wait, we shouldn't have done that one because the AI is just wrong? Because I use Claude a lot. That's my go-to. Actually, it's my go-to.
Yeah.
It's the only one I pay for because it's helped me build things like because I'm into home automation. Right now it's building a new dashboard for me, and the one I had to build was 4,000 lines of code. Right. So but the thing I'm finding out, and I imagine even at a fairly low level, this is the case too. One is I have to interact with it a lot, really, because it's not, and mine are complex needs, but two, it does misunderstand me too. Even when I have a clear prompt, it's going to make a mistake here and there. And I'm wondering, now you're in a business environment where you can't, it's not like one, it's not for you, it's for the customer, it's one-to-one.
Correct.
For you, it's not, right? So how do you deal with it when whoever you're using, your LLM says, well, actually, okay, the refund policy is XYZ, and then it ends up charging somebody. It ends up charging somebody XYZ instead of refunding the money.
Yeah, hopefully, that should happen. So there are like a few ways this is worked around today. By the way, AI agents absolutely make mistakes. They misunderstand what the customer wants. They kind of go down the wrong track. They hallucinate, of course, which there are tricks around now much better than they were 12 months ago. First of all, we always provide a human fail-safe. So the goal, the North Star, is that the customer should have a great interaction. We start from that. The North Star is actually not automation, not cost reduction. The customer should have a great experience. See, the weird thing about service is no one makes a service call in a good mood, right? Like
that's good to know.
Right? The human being is already a little upset. Okay. So our job is to take that negativity out of this world and like bring them back just being to normal is like a big win. If you can delight them, that's amazing, right? But always starting from there, right? So this kind of stuff you're describing, like for us, it's existential. It's like really important to get it right. So we have done a lot of work to get the tone right? Like always be respectful, all that stuff. Put a lot of guardrails around, like for example, if you work with the Zendesk bot, you cannot engage it in a political discussion and get distracted, right? You can't do all of that. But the most important thing is also making the bot itself somewhat self-aware. So we actually have a referee bot that watches any bot that's working. There's a bot that's also watching it, right? And when you operate in that mode, it actually works much better. So the watching bot, if it observes that this conversation is going sideways, it transfers over to a human then, right? So there's always a human sitting in the back, and that human then gets the full context of this conversation plus recommendations of, hey, customer's upset. right? Can you like you may need to do something, right? Or this is the problem they're trying to solve and they're not getting solved, etc. So the human failover will always be there. I think there's always going to be a role for that. And then the last thing I'd say is that um, these bots can be made to be self-improving. So when you have a conversation, you get the signal of that was a good conversation or a bad conversation. That then goes back into training the agent itself. So the next time it does a better job with a similar case like that, right? So we often talk about in our company as like at Zendesk as we have to treat these as not a software, but as a new form of labor, right? They are workers. Out of the box, they come out like interns. They're smart but unformed.
Right.
And then, just as with an intern or an entry level position, if he can't do the job, it's going to call the supervisor, right? Should like learn to do the same things. Like, you can apply that mental model. That you design a much better system. It becomes easier to design a much better system around it.
I'm really interested, and I know we're running short on time, so I guess we got to wrap things up. But everybody's now focused on, and this wants one of these general industry kind of things. How much money is being invested into AI, generally speaking?
Yeah.
All the multi-billion dollars deals that are going on between these kind of these large vendors and OpenAI, mostly with OpenAI and Anthropic and things like that. And it's, I guess, because these numbers, like you hear one company commit to $50 billion to OpenAI, and you see like, I think, what was it last week? Microsoft's book is 45% OpenAI. It's 45% of the $625 billion book is one company. So there's all these huge numbers, and that causes huge expectations, because you wouldn't be investing these huge numbers if you didn't think the mother load is coming, basically.
Absolutely.
So how do you guys look and manage the R&D aspect of this? And so it doesn't, because I mean, they're like, Oracle, for example, is a company that's been getting killed because they are having to fund it in like with some loans and things like that.
Yeah.
Versus companies like Microsoft, they're spending just as much, if not more, but they're paying it off, with their cash.
Yeah.
How do you guys balance the excitement and the investments you need to make in AI, but keeping it kind of in check so that it actually will have a payoff at the end, for not just for you, but for your customers as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you look at like the tens to hundreds of billions of dollars of investment that are going in today, a bulk of that is at the infra layer, right? So it's building data centers, building compute, etc. It's not that different from I was listening to the earlier part of the call, right? When you look at the fiber build out that happened just as the internet was taking off, we are in the fiber build out phase of this, right? The big internet is still to come. And this thing is going to be, we believe, like 10 times bigger than the economic impact of the internet, right? So, and one way you can tell is every single piece of equipment that has gone into the ground so far, like chips from 6-7 years ago, which is well past the depreciation period, are still in use because the demand is so high. Like there's really not been anything like this before. And I think they're just, I would argue that we're not investing enough.
Wow.
That's
a huge statement.
Yeah.
All
right. So one last thing. So you remember glory days and that conversation we had on tipping, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about how you think about it these days? Because it's really, it actually is, it's becoming more interestingly meaningful by the way we're still seeing a lot of, let's say, the hospitality industry being treated.
Yeah.
So fill people in a little bit on that whole thing.
I mean, it's a probably a slightly embarrassing story. So if you see me turning a bit pink, I'll confess to being a ridiculously heavy tipper. and Paul and I share this,
Yes.
and this was true when I was a graduate student making $10,000 a year, and it's sort of stayed true. And frankly, it's always been a way for me to uh, uh, kind of acknowledge that we are very privileged to be doing things we love doing. And a lot of times people are in jobs that they don't love doing, and they do it all the same with a smile and put up great service. So, in a perfect world, everybody got a great wage and had a great life, but this is just a way of expressing thanks. So that hasn't changed. And by the way, Paul, I mean, nowadays, of course, tipping is everywhere. Again, like in a perfect world, people just got great wages, but I tip at every opportunity I get.
Yeah.
Still.
I remember we were talking about that a few months ago, actually, about the fact that you even tip people who aren't serving you particularly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I do the same thing. We do
Yeah.
the same thing. Yeah. Just because you like the person.
It's maybe it puts them in a good mood. I mean, that's like again, I talk to my team. Our job is to put people in a good mood, right? That's our job.
That's perfect.
And especially in service, that's really important. Marketing, sales are different, but in service, that's really important. Yeah.
By the way, Tim, Zach, I'm guessing he works with you. he says we listen to our amazing customers. So that's part of the secret sauce, which shouldn't be a secret at all. But sometimes it feels like some companies don't really understand that part of it.
We do our best. Yeah.
Well, with you there, I know the company's going to do its best always.
You're always so kind. Thank you so much.
But
Paul.
you know what? I'm also right.
I appreciate the encouragement. I really do. It means
You're
a lot.
an amazing guy, Shashi. Thank you. And thank you for being here today. Really.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are we going to ask the question since,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's back on the table now, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately. But
all right.
Shashi, do you have a favorite NFL team?
You're gonna hate me for this. It's the Seahawks.
No.
I don't like that answer right this moment, but it's not the wrong answer. It does sting a little bit there, Shashi. I'm not gonna lie, but
I'm sorry. I used to really like their previous coach, and I've kind of not changed my affiliation since.
But you know what? The absolute wrong answer would have been the team you're playing in the Super Bowl. So I actually am a Seahawks fan for at least the next 3 or 4 days.
Too.
Or so.
All right, we are fully aligned for the next three.
The only wrong answer is the New England Patriots. You could say you didn't care one way or the other. You could literally say the Canton Bulldogs in 1938 was the last team you rooted for, and it wouldn't matter. The only wrong answer is New England Patriots.
Yeah.
So
that would have been a real special trick too, since you were not born anywhere near that time period. But that's pretty good. But anyway, Shashi, thanks again for joining us. Hopefully, this will not be the last time you're able to join us. So,
well, now that you passed the test, it definitely won't be the last time.
Yeah.
Call me anytime. I'll be happy to be here. Thank you so much, guys.
And thank you.
Oh, weren't you going to invite him to something?
Well, I think we already talked about him.
We
coming
talked about that.
Yes.
Okay.
We're working through the dates. We're working through the dates.
Okay.
It's all being worked on.
Awesome. So on behalf of Shashi, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and we can never say goodbye until we say hello to Minnie. Hey, Minnie. Bye, Minnie.
Hey, Minnie.
Bye, everybody.